We had the question, in order to create working local economies that ensure sustainability and equity, development must be in an integrated holistic framework. What is meant by an integrated holistic framework, and how do you achieve such a framework? An integrated holistic framework depends on the integration of all the different parts in society in order to maintain balance. There has to be some kind of cooperation and coordination. The main thing is that you need to have a goal that you're all in alignment with. If the different sectors are working at odds with each other, you're not going to have an integrated framework. You need to be kind of working towards a common goal. Here's a compare and contrast between what it looks like to have opposing goals and what it looks like to have common goals. So a capitalist model has the three main sectors of the society are the government, public sector, the private enterprise sector, private business, and then the civic sector, or civil sector. And if the government's main goal is to maintain power, politicians want to get reelected. So that's the goal they're working towards. Private enterprise sector goal is to maximize profit. And the civil sector goal is to meet people's needs. Well, you're obviously not going to be able to integrate all of those things because some of those goals are at odds. So a Proutistic model, you see on the right, would have all three sectors would have the same goal to meet people's needs. The capitalistic society is not integrated. You have these different parts, and there's some connection, but it's not really. They're operating in separate spheres. This creates an imbalance, and you have, if the civic sector's goal is to meet people's needs, but the enterprise sector's goal is to maximize profit. Those two things are at odds, and the public sector's goal is to maintain power. So it's not really articulating with people's needs because its goal isn't to meet people's needs. It's to stay in power and figure out how to exploit people to stay in power. But there is sort of this unholy alliance between enterprise and public sector where, as John just said, we have the best Congress money can buy. That can articulate in a way that's not beneficial to the whole of society. And so if you have unintegrated development, what you end up with is inequity and unsustainability. If the goal is to maximize profit at whatever cost, you're going to exploit people in the environment. We've seen plenty of that. And in a Proutistic society, we have articulation between the three sectors, and there is a common goal. So the flow of energy is going around in a circle in this graphic because they're all supporting each other. If the civic sector's goal is to meet human needs, they're going to find ways to partner with the enterprise sector because they're going to be creating goods and services that meet people's needs and producing the amount needed to meet the needs of the society. And the public sector is going to be enacting policies and planning around what is best for humans and the society. So Proutistic development leads to sustainability and equity. How do we achieve an integrated framework that has sustainability and equity? There are different ways. There's not one single thing that creates that, but one way that I thought we would share today is to create integrated development schemes. Integrated development schemes, some of you might know them as the name master unit. They are local models that serve as nucleuses of development in a local area. And they provide models of vibrant development. They create hubs that facilitate the rapid expansion of services and innovation. And they have the potential to advance culture, education, spiritual upliftment. And these are all things that humanity needs and that society needs for a healthy, functioning society. And it's possible by creating these different integrated development schemes in areas to have rapid expansion and have rapidly increase the standard of living. So if you were to do this in the middle of Detroit and have these different integrated development schemes, it would rapidly change what's going on there. So here is an example of something that the PROUT Institute developed that we were working on in our local neighborhood here. And it's called the SEED model, Solidarity, Economy, and Ecological Design. And this is really a graphic that shows how the elements of an integrated development scheme are nested within each other and how each level kind of supports the next level up as you expand out and increase the complexity and diversity of your integrated development scheme. So it starts with infrastructure. So that could be the soil in the ground, the basic resources that you need to provide for basic necessities. And then the basic necessities, if you have soil and you're creating crops and farms, then you can have meet people's food needs, you can meet people's clothing needs, you can meet medicinal needs with herbal medicine. And from there, once people have their basic necessities met, it goes to the economy level and you get cottage industry, people starting to create some value added products, maybe from the farm products, and begin to engage in economic activity, develop some co-ops. And then from there, you have service industry developing, and then you have culture. So all kinds of things that support the civic society can happen. And then you have the spiritual needs get met. So this is kind of the basic way human beings can reach their full potential. You have to start from meeting your basic needs before you can then develop and increase in complexity and eventually get to meeting your spiritual needs. And here is a more detailed graphic that shows the specific things at each level here. So at infrastructure level, you've got energy, water, communication, transportation. And then you have basic necessities would be food, shelter, clothing, education. And then you have the economy as cottage industries, creating markets, food processing, value-added products. And then services are, I guess you can have education under services, social service, sanctuary, lodging, trainings. And then cultural support is social gatherings, crafts, creative expression, artistic expression, music, dance. And then spiritual, you would have retreats, community meditation, yoga classes, yoga meditation. So
those are just the ones that we were working on here in the SEED project.
yeah.
That these are the areas we had the potential to develop. We were modifying the program according to our local circumstances. But other places, the cultural offerings, the service offerings might look very different.
How far did this endeavor go?
Oh, all of these, pretty much all of these areas we were building out in some way or another.
Yeah, so we try to sort of seed the local integrated neighborhood, intentional neighborhood community here with all of these different aspects that are kind of nested within each other to create a vibrant model of what could be done in a Proutistic society. Other aspects in a Prout system that contribute to creating integrated frameworks are integrated farming, economic democracy and economic decentralization, and of course, block level planning, which we spent a long time on. So all of these elements combine to create an integrated holistic framework. It's not just one thing that happens. It's a combination. And the other thing is that integrated development goes hand in hand with balanced development in a Prout society. So Prout puts a lot of emphasis on balanced development. In an old growth forest, you have all the systems integrated with each other, and it creates a balance naturally, and growth is natural process. So balanced development really ensures sustainability. PROUT looks at several things when deciding how to create balanced development. And so you look at the availability of resources, the current availability of resources, and then the long range availability of resources. And then what are the current needs and what are the long range needs? So the goal is to meet the needs of the present without jeopardizing the needs of the future, which isn't exactly what we have right now. We have just resource exploitation. And so the current conceptions of development tend to, on the two extremes, fall into no growth, like we need to have zero growth. And we know people who feel that this is true and this is what we should be working towards. And that's often referred to as steady state economics. And in steady state economics, the government kind of imposes certain restrictions on resource use in a way that ensures there's no growth happening. And it's a deliberate curtailing of growth so that you don't deplete the resources. And on the opposite end is capitalist economics with kind of cancerous growth. We all know what that looks like. So there's no government restriction on growth, and growth is actually the goal, and it results in cancerous growth that depletes and destroys the environment. So what does PROUT think about growth? PROUT thinks about growth in terms of balanced development. So PROUT kind of criticizes both capitalistic and steady state growth. PROUT proposes that growth is natural, but what is needed is balanced development. So in thinking of growth, there can be growth without resource depletion. Growth doesn't have to mean that you are depleting the resources and growing in this cancerous way that we see in capitalist system. Growth can happen in ways that we often don't think about. I was just thinking in terms of like personally using resources that were not otherwise being used. At Dharmalaya, there was an empty room in the side of the building that wasn't being used. And so I turned it into an Airbnb. That was development and growth, but it didn't deplete any resources or use anything else, but it created more income to do more work around the property. And growth could happen in ways that production becomes more efficient. And instead of producing more to make more profit, you don't have to work as hard, right? You can put that energy somewhere else. And there's all kinds of ways of maximally utilizing resources that we don't even think about, sun and wind and solar. It doesn't have to mean that it's depleting non-renewable resources to have growth. So you can have growth, but it's a natural thing in all systems to grow and evolve. And the goal is to do it in a balanced way. And so PROUT promotes the development that is dynamic and adheres to the principle of balance. So PROUT economic expansion doesn't stifle economic growth, but it also is not allowed to override the constraints needed to maintain equilibrium. So it's a constant adjusting and integrating the needs of the society and the different sectors of the society while not overutilizing resources. So integrated development and balanced development go hand in hand. That's the main takeaway, I think, for Proutistic society.